Fever, away!
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Chriscast. It's the final week of Season 26 regular season of ETF2L Premiership Highlander, and there is so much to play for. We have in one corner Feila eSports fighting for the playoffs. There are 3 spots available, 4 teams going for it, and they need a win here tonight to make sure they get in. Up against them is the Russians in the form of Quasar Formation. Was it Quasar? I don't know how to pronounce it, but they are fighting against relegation. They're near the bottom, although they're not going to finish at the bottom. They definitely want to get some points to put them in a better stead heading into season 27. Going into this, Meer, like you said, Feila definitely the favourites based on, I guess name recognition alone, the players that they have. But there's a lot of names there on Quasar. As I was reading out the roster, kind of Kitties, Bark and Bandami players who, players that did well in Prem in the past seasons. You see them maybe bringing a surprise here today?
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at it here. Obviously, playoffs is out of the question here, but they definitely can look to cause an upset. I think the Russian teams are really, really exciting on maps like this. And these guys, or at least a good old bulk of the Quasar Formation guys, have been around the block a few times as the seasons have gone by. So I think they've definitely got it in them. There's definitely potential for them to pull something off here if they need to. But, sort of standard approach, just trying to lock out that A point, just try and get the seconds in, trying to bring the time down. Actually, it has gone down for Feila on A as well, which does mean a little bit of intel has slipped for Feila here as they look to fortify themselves on B, waiting for the Russians' next move.
Yeah, just the standard kind of, we'll have a look, see what's happening on A, but you basically just let it go for free. That stronghold is definitely going to be on the B point. And now it's up to Axio to try and get that information over to his team as to whether or not Quasar Formation are going for the E push. And they are. And you can see there are players in position already. Lolovon is already on the cap, but Feila are really, really slow to respond here. They're very slow to rotate. Delta's there, and he's not really able to fight in range. We've got Clav and Lolovon both on the point.
Yeah, we had BB hiding in that little pack by the E-spawn, waiting for the engineer to walk through, but he missed his 3rd shot and the engineer managed to get away scot-free. That's lost them a lot of time and given Quasar Formation a good position advantage. Kazuki does manage to destroy that gun and there's nobody suppressing him at that door, so it's going to be an Uber trade coming out from both teams here. It's just Joe and Layla at the end of this Beck tunnel. They're trying to pick Walker off. Kazuki tries to stand up to the challenge as well, but it looks like it's going to be a little bit of a backup for Quasar now. They're sort of frantically trying to get the engineer set up, but EXE Red goes down. And his chances are pretty solid there. So Feila with comfort go back to B, ready to receive the Quark and Clav aggression here. Yeah,
I mean, it's that kind of rotation that it's very, very hard to deal with. You see the conscious being used. Joe tanking a lot of damage, standing still. It's going to be Odin who gets the kills there. Managed to pick up 2 and just stop Corky and Clav in their charge. So nothing really happening for Quasar here. They had some good positioning, but when you take down key players there, it's very, very hard to lock down E if not everybody is singing from the same song sheet. And right now it looks like we're just kind of back to where we were on B. It's going to be a bit of a more passive sentry from Rambusel. He's trying to move it up now, back into position. Wow. But in general, Feila just kind of happy to sit and soak up the pressure.
Yeah, they do lose Kazuki, but he did an immense amount of damage to those players as the Russians just sort of waiting for the seconds for their Uber to come through. Speaking of, it is pop. Layla milks a decent bit. We've got Delt there ready to receive the post of that Uber. Quark's going to go behind and try and make something of it as they've gained no position whatsoever. And with full health in their hands, Feila just resort back to original position. They're trying to contest a soldier over top. It looks like he's got a banner that should be up soon. Trying to take a little bit of position with Walker, but Feila, 2-player advantage. Quark down for the Russians is going to make it a little bit sticky for them.
Yeah, Quark tried to go behind and get some spam on that sentry, while Spoon was also spamming the sentry from the other angle. And other than those 2 players, no one from Quasar really committed, and they just kind of got baited there. And that Uber achieved nothing. It didn't even get the sentry down. Rambusel does go down there, though, and it's a reflect from Cloud. That rocket going straight back. Buko is also down to Walker, of all people, the heavy, countering the sniper. So those 2 players down is a huge deal, and now Quasar maybe found an opening for this push on to B.
Yeah, they look to try and bust Quark in through the top of B, but Joe met them with some sticky, so it's going to be a trade. They've got a lot of Feila players really close here, so they've got to make sure they don't flash too much. Quark going behind again, but there's no Sentry Flame to destroy. So it's actually going to be an all-out offensive up front. Joe, super duper aggro, with only his heals, manages to pick up Dark Time and Lol on a 12 kill streak now. It's just Walker left in that corner. He manages to pick off Delt, but Feila now managing to solidify themselves on this point once again. Pretty fast spawners coming out of the Russian side, but Feila are looking sort of unrumbled by their attempts here.
Yeah, and you know what, a lot of the credit has to go towards Joe. It's just the brain of using his Uber in a smart way. When the trade is happening, he doesn't awkwardly dance around. He just goes forward and goes for the players who are unubered. And during that exchange, he took down Fuzzy and Exy just straight away. But we see some frags happening here. Fuzzy takes down Odin, and Quasar Formation are just flying in based on the fact that Odin went down there. Big bomb in from Kazuki. Dark goes down, so weak, but it doesn't matter. Joe's there on the cleanup, takes 1, 2, 3, including Quarky. Buko is also on a 3 kill streak, and BB is also on the cleanup. But it was looking so good for Quasar. There's so many players in good positions. They were flooding around, they were spreading out. But that Uber coming in from Feila is just going to absolutely put a massive dent in that push.
Yeah, it was pretty damning. It looked pretty good for Quasar. You know, they got the heavy frag, they got the sentry down, they forced Feila into a sort of a receded position. Yet the counter Uber came out, and they just got sort of mulched, and all their players just sinking back to the same spawn wave. So pretty unfortunate for them. And Feila again looking to solidify themselves up top. Kazuki does go down. It's only going to be BB there, so he'll have to sort of avoid risks and allow his teams to get a bit of forward position. But Quasar Formation, they're losing 2-3 players at any given time, and they're just losing minutes on the clock.
Yeah, at the moment, it feels like Quasar are kind of panicking a little bit and just trying to dry push this while the Uber's out of the equation. But as it is, because Dark went down earlier, Layla has 100% in the bank, and Dark is only at 75 right now. Clav goes down. The Uber's going to be used. There's no Pyro in play. He's going to get a lot of. He's going to get X. He gets 3. He's still trying to spawn camp. Delta's actually going to take down Quark and Spoon. And Layla, in fact, gets in on the action and takes down Walker. The combo there, taking down 6 players from, I mean, you know what? Demo, Pyro, Medic. You know, Layla's getting on the action with some kills there, but absolutely huge. Layla does die as a result, and maybe that's the one silver lining in this for Quasar, because Dark survives, Layla dies, 100% Uber advantage now. Quark's coming in.
Oh no, Joe's gone down, his 20 kill streak ended. Kazuki comes around the corner, manages to get a force. That should buy a little bit of time for his players to get out here, but they're being slightly slow on the draw. Additionally to that, they only lose their gun. They manage to back up into the back end of Bet, trying to set themselves up on C. Actually playing for a little bit of intel, but a lot of time bought there. The B only just going over the line. That's going to be, is that over a 5-minute time there for Quasar Formation?
Yeah. It's looking a bit rough. Generally, you're kind of looking, you want to be getting that sort of time by the end result. So Quasar Formation have to be a little bit faster now, but they are getting a couple of kills. Fuzzy gets a nice headshot onto BB, so no scout buzzing around and annoying you. And they have got ×3 on the E point, so you know it's going to be harder for Feila to block this point now, as that B spawn is locked down. Spoon is in heaven and just able to shoot some rockets down, and Buko walks out of the spawn unaware, is going to get cleaned up by Yaka, and that's quite a big kill. And they've got simultaneous cap time happening in here. They've got C and E being pressured at the same time.
Yeah, we know when you're dealing with this sort of time on the clock, really you need to be targeting that E, but we know that it gets progressively more tough with the less points you've got. You know, they haven't got that C, bridges aren't extended, spawn door isn't locked off. Quasar Formation need to have sort of a 2-pronged assault here if they want to get this done in any sort of quick time, but applied a bit of pressure to C. They pulled Feila away and made it slightly easier for themselves as well. So Uber's now equal. And it looks like Quasar, with the bridges extending across, want to sort of form another assault again. They've got a bit of BB causing a little bit of terror in the back lines, a really sort of defensive heaven position from Feila here, and a little bit of battling going on the flank. So they are fully expecting an E-push coming out of Quasar Formation here, as they have not gone for any long rotates.
Yeah, the Uber's just going to be exchanged here directly on E. Quark falls down into the pit. He should be able to get himself out, but the Uber basically just doesn't really achieve anything. There's only a mini in heaven from Rambasaur. Doesn't have that level 3 up, so I guess that's one blessing in disguise. but the Ubers were just exchanged. Nobody of note really went down. And obviously, as you know, when you're a blue team, you want to trade with as many people as possible. You take a look at Lollivon. Kills BB there. He gets a 29-second respawn. I think it was actually 30 seconds on the dot. So every trade you take as the blue team right now is going to be so beneficial. And you can see the cap time going down on D right now. Yuka getting some time with Lollivon, just trying to draw the attention from Feila away from that E point, keep them guessing where the attack is coming from next.
I must say, I feel pretty bad for Quark. He was just spamming all 8 of his stickies up at the combo in heaven, and every single one, I'm pretty certain every single one just got instantly reflected by Del. That's annoying. But yeah, it's a real tough challenge for them now. You know, they Feila know exactly where they're coming from. There's no real diversity going on as it stands. It looks like they're going to have to try and attempt a little bit of a rotate. They need to approach from a different angle because they've had a few cracks at the egg trying to push on this backside, and it just is not working. So now coming to White Room are Quasar Formation, looking to take it nice and deep. Hopefully so. They've got their Uber charge up, but they have been met on D by a lot of these Feila players. Clav's been launched in by Joanne. Unfortunately to no avail. It looks like Lolvon wants to follow up. Joe is so painfully weak, but a little bit of beef. The Uber now coming out of Quasar Formation. Joe does get dropped. Oh no, did Layla drop as well? I missed that.
Yeah, I mean, Clav just got launched in, and he was kind of like a distraction because Quark just came in, shot a couple of stickies, and it was the pipe that hits Layla square in the face, and she drops the Uber. And as soon as that Uber was dropped, Dark used the Uber, and the rest of Quasar just came in and cleaned up those players. So big play out of Quark just to get the damage done, to get the drop, and that's bought them a time. 10 minutes on the dot. It's taken them for the D point. They have still got E to go. They do have a bit of an Uber advantage here, Meer, but 20%, they have time on the point. Feila, they can maybe chalk off a few more seconds if they play it right.
Yeah, Quark is in a really solid pause there. It looks like the handlebars on the bridges has been what it needed for Quasar to get a bust in here. But yeah, huge amount of damage output from this demo man here, doing an excellent job of suppressing these players, trying to peek in through Beck. There's a lot of players there, but they're taking a big old chunk of damage. They do lose Darker Time, the Russians here, so the health rotation on point is not fantastic, and all of those weak players are getting picked off as Feila do manage to bust through those gates. So a good bit of cap time on the point, but not really anyone poised to reaggress as Quasar get their spawners up together.
Yeah, Feila aren't really in a position they want to be in. They don't really want to be in the BC connector. They probably prefer to be in the White Room. But they have 100% Uber. They know that they can block the aggression coming in from B, which is where they're actually coming from. Fusky actually getting a snipe onto Buko is probably going to open things up here. Pressure coming from Quasar on the point right now. Feila have that Uber. Nice little flare jump from Del is going to catch out Quark. Joe also charging forward, but I think everybody has been cleared out. Dark surviving, 75% in the bag for him. And that Uber advantage could be crucial in them actually sealing out this round with the E-cap. But Kazuki picks up 2. It's just, they're just winning the 1v1s right now. Oh, and the drop comes in.
Wow. That's the last thing they wanted there. You saw the flank from Quasar trying to get in, trying to bully Layla into using there. They went down, and then that sort of distraction was enough for the drop to come out of Quasar as well. So that's pretty damning. That might be the nail in the coffin. They've still got 6 minutes, but a competitive time, I'm going to say, might be off the cards at this point. Walker is chilling under. BB's running into him, but not much he can do as a 5 HP scout running into a revved up heavy. So Quasar now trying to take a little bit of opportunity. They see Rambasaur. They've identified him as being alone in this heaven area. They really want to have control of that. That is what could potentially win them. They want to control one side of this E point, and they're not met by any Feila resistance yet. Axio is playing for a bit of intel. Kazuki managed to isolate Darker Time, who gets finished off by Buko. We're going to see the Uber coming out of Feila now. They know it's a free Uber basically, and they're just going to use it just to sweep up these Quasar players, try and create a little bit of chaos, try and make it difficult for them.
It's like that was the ending of a mini story there. The mini story started off with Joe on A, piping the entire flank of Quasar Formation, Lollivon and Spoon both going down, and while the cap time is going down on E, the combo of Feila are rotating through drop down, up into B, into BC connector. They have a long stretch to go. And Delt gets 2 kills by himself near the E point with Reflex. And then the Uber's able to come in from Feila. And you just feel Like, if the flank survives against Joe there, if, you know, Delt doesn't get those reflex, then, hey, that E point probably goes down before the Uber even gets close to it from Feila. But because at the moment they're winning things, like, you know, Layla's not dying, Odin's on an 8 kill streak, Kazuki was on like a 6 or 7, Joe was getting double figure kill streaks, like, people are winning the 1v1s at the moment. The people on the defense aren't dying, and that's the biggest thing on Steel. If the defense players aren't dying, it doesn't matter how fast your respawns are on blue. Sorry, you have to make the trades happen, and they're not happening at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that Feila's really doing that's sort of exploiting the weakness of Quasar is they are reacting so stellarly to the location of Quasar, and it's making it really difficult for them to get in because there's always spam waiting for them. We do see the Uber coming out of Quasar, and they managed to sweep up all of Feila in White Room, which is a little bit of a slip up because Feila used their Uber just seconds before. They knew it was equals before that. So a little bit of a slip up. They're just 3 players up now. This is the opportunity that Quasar Formation need to try and get themselves on last. Joe's having to go the long way around. They just need to try and suppress this Beck area. BB manages to bust through. ×3 on the cap. They just need to bunker down. They need to suppress this doorway. And this round could potentially be Quasar Formations here.
Yeah, they're still fighting from BC Connector though. Joe just spamming those stickies, and no one wants to stand on the point anymore. I feel bad for Walker. He had a delectable sandwich there on one of the walkways, and no one wanted to pick it up. They were literally dodging it, and it looks like Feila are slowly but surely regaining control. They're 4 down right now. Buko and Rambo both down, and those are 2 big players. But BB clears out Heaven. Walker does go down, and BB actually doing a little cheeky taunt there. It does look like Quasar are trying to come in through BC. They take down Kazuki. They have the heals. Layla is at 50 HP, but she does have a bit of an advantage here. Meer, this could come into play in the next few seconds.
Yeah, you see Joe on the beam. They've got Delt there as well. They're rotating. They're going to want to use this pretty rapid. Quark has something to say about it, but they can't really be concerned about it, and they just need to get through. Uber is popped off, doing a decent chunk of damage to Lolvon. They got the gun down as well. They just need to focus on sweeping up these remaining players on the cap. We do see Clav there as well. It could create a little bit of a nuisance, particularly with that pit waiting there. The cap is so close now for Quasar. They just need players on it, but they're dropping like flies. They're not able to get into position. They're stuck in White Room. They're stuck in Beck, and it's just crumbling at every opportunity.
Every time they go in, it starts to look good for them, and then somebody comes in and gets 2 or 3 kills. Yucca though, with the backstab onto Layla, gets her in White Room. That is absolutely huge. So this is, you know, less than 2 minutes on the round timer. If the round timer goes down, then Feila won't even have to capture E to win, you know, the next half, or the next phase, sorry. They know they need to get the time. Oh, but Dark goes down to Kazuki. It's just medic trades all over the place. I was saying the medics weren't dying earlier, Meer. I think I'm just cursing everyone because the medics keep dying now.
Yeah, they do, and it's making it particularly difficult for the attacking team. You know, they get a bit of position settled up, they lose their medic, and then all of their players are just sort of bleeding out to the point where, you know, they've just got to attempt a repush. But speaking of Feila, 6 players down, Odin going down as well. The cap is pretty well progressed. I don't think they're going to be able to get there in time. It's only going to be Joe, but faced by 4 players proves to be too much of a task even for him. Cap seemingly going to go over the line now with no chance of a rebuttal from Feila, but 60 minutes 55, 1 minute away from a timeout is it's not ideal.
It's not ideal. I mean, if you're Feila right now, you're feeling pretty happy with your defensive kind of work out there. Quasar Formation probably thinking, maybe not going to win this round. Of course, it's not over. They still, still need to go through, and we've seen crazy things before where, you know, people get hard held at B, and, you know, who knows. I do know Feila they do like to go for an E play, and it's what Quasar tried to do at the start, and because it failed and then it failed again, they bled a lot of time that way, and that's why it took so long for them to get a bit of momentum going for B, right? So who knows what could happen, but it is definitely looking good for Feila right now to get at least 1 round on the board. They know they need at least 1 or 2 rounds to get into playoffs, and I mean, they've got 1 foot already forward, right? Well, I mean, what went wrong for Quasar there?
I think they just weren't sort of up to speed with how quickly Feila were going to react to their plays. And I think it fell apart at every given opportunity. As soon as they peeked the doorway, peeked their ugly little heads through, Feila were there ready to return straight away. It didn't help as well, obviously. Feila, it seemingly were rolling on constant equal Uber or Uber advantage situations, which isn't great because, you know, you lose your medic in an equal Uber situation, you've lost 40 seconds, is how you view it. And when you're looking at a time critical map like this, it's really, really not helpful. But overconfidence has been the undoing of some people before, so we can't write Quasar Formation off in this first round. Of course, it is a best of 3, with Feila needing to win 2. We do see Axio taking a little bit of position. It looks like they want to coordinate a push now. BB has bonked all the way up to upper. They're managing to suppress Walker. They've got a teleporter there, so Gun now going down. We do see Odin trying to take a little bit of pause. Walker's there ready to receive. Looking a little bit sticky, trying to make a good position here. Joe painfully weak, but Layla just holding on to that Uber charge for now, trying to pick off these Quasar players. And it seemingly has worked and might open up opportunity for a slightly stronger push from Feila.
It's they've just been opened up by Axio here. Axio comes in, gets the stab onto Red, saps the sentry, gets the backstab onto Clav, guns down Quark, and could have actually got Dark as well if he wasn't juggled away by a rocket. So Axio getting 3 kills and the sentry on some really, really important players is huge. There's actually a sentry up in the position that you want to be as the defense by Rambo. He's getting aggression there, and Quasar can't get in. In fact, it's going to be a headshot from Buko, who takes down Quark, and they can't compete that. Feila took that without using Uber.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty impressive on its own. Quasar looked like they held on for a little bit too long. You know, it got to the point where they were positioned to just back out. They expected Feila to trade into them. Didn't happen. Feila now, 70% Uber advantage. Doors opening very slowly but surely on C. They're sort of bunkering down in this corridor area. They know the cliff doors aren't open just yet, but they are going to use the Uber charge advantage. Clav does a good job suppressing the Uber charge, and opens up a little bit of space for Feila now. They've got that level 3 set up in Beck. They've got the scout on the cap. Quark has had to go lower. They've got to do something about BB. They can't allow Feila to get enough cap on that point where it's a sort of winnable situation on an E cap for them. But we do see a 2-pronged attack again. We got the cap time coming in on E, and Joe and Layla seemingly tearing up C independently. 5 players down on the side Quasar Formation now, and it could be the start of the end.
Yeah, it's just an absolute slaughter, and this is what we saw Quasar doing earlier on the attack. They split their attack onto E, just tickled it a little bit with a couple of players who had that access to get over the pit, and then put the majority of their forces onto C. The difference here is that Quasar just got split up way too much, and then that offense onto C was just way too successful. At that point, if you can't hold both, then you just say, sack off C, we're leaving it, we're not defending it anymore, we hold on to E, that's the main objective. But because they tried to hold both in that split push, they end up losing so many players, and it's now not looking good. C's gone down, still 13:35 on the clock, and this Uber coming in is actually pretty equal. 30 seconds on the respawn queue though.
No way!
Buko kills 4!
Joe was in the corner getting spammed by every man and his dog, and Layla kept arrowing him and somehow managed to slip out and keep Quasar committed to the extent where Buko was just able to just sit back and just plop heads until the sun sort of set. But we do see Feila now with their huge player advantage. They've got players on the cap. It's going to be times 4. They're looking to fortify themselves. This position in the game, for Quasar on the offense, they had only just sort of capped B here, so yeah, it's a pretty stark change. They're just trying to get that cap over the line, trying to suppress Quasar. They've got a couple of players doing the loop, Darker Time and Finsky on the lower area, but the heal's completely isolated from the damage dealing classes of Quasar.
Yeah, Quark tried to come in from the lower area, the sewer area, and Rambo has a sentry there. Normally you'd expect it up in heaven, but he had it on the low ground, and it just completely demolished him. And without a demo in that situation, very, very hard to get that damage out. It is going to be a fairly comfortable round for Feila on the board. They do take the lead. I think statistically Feila have always been pretty good at this map. We'll have to see if they can take that momentum into round 2. They are 1 to the good, and if they win the next round, they'll be taking home the full 6 points. Quasar, though, you know what? They've got some experienced players. I mean, Quarky, Walker, that combo is a Prem combo from days gone with, you know, the likes of Kitty. Fuzky, one of the best snipers in Prem, a couple of years ago. So we have players who are capable definitely of doing something here. We'll have to see if starting on the defense is going to be a little bit more comfortable with them. You see Quark just putting up those crit stickies, getting them into position, and making sure there might be a bit of a surprise for Feila going around the corner. Realistically, Meer, do you think Quasar have a round in them here?
I think they might class this as a little bit of a write-off. Obviously, they're going to try their best. They know their season's over, regardless what happens in this map. But I can imagine they'd be pretty pleased if they were the ones to deny Feila playoffs. But it's going to be a little bit of a tall order. I'm gonna have to bet against Quasar, I think, in this one. But I don't think that's unsensible.
We'll have to see. Is it going to be your heart or your head, Meer? I don't know. It's hard to see what's going to happen. But the first kill is going to go the way of Quasar Formation. It's going to be Fusky getting the snipe onto Delt. And like I said earlier, Axio really did open the way. He was the key that opened the lock on B very, very early on. We'll have to see if they're going to be a little bit more aware of the spy this time, or if it's going to be something else that will be the danger. Buko going down to the pipes of Quark does mean that just a little bit slower. Delt going down again, and so far so good. Yeah, so far so good.
It looks to be Axio just setting himself up, trying to identify an opportunity. He's actually gone up top. It looks like he wants to try and pick off these players. Manages to set the teleporter and a pick off Spoon. That opens up a little bit of ground for Feila. Now Quasar unable to get up there without their soldier, with the heavy dropping down. Is not ideal for them. The health not too great on Feila, but they've got a little bit of time to play with. Dark time. Where was that shot from?
He came from the drop down.
Oh
he
my
came
god.
from the drop down, peaked, full
he did
charge
the sting
body
hand.
shot. He did the, you know what, I felt the sting of the sting hand shot.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what, I've been there, but the full charge body shot from drop down,
yeah.
It's turning into one of the oldest tricks in the books, tricks in the book rather. You do have to test for that, and again, it's kind of deja vu here, Meer, because once again, we're seeing Feila take B without having to use Uber, and Dark Time having no Uber as their, Feila are charging onto C.
Yeah, the difference here obviously is Walker is down. There is no level 3 in this bet connector here, and Feila can just charge through at will. They've got some stickies there. Buka's trying to be a little bit cheeky and suffers the consequences of it. They're just getting a bit overconfident. They can chill out, take some heals. You've got 50% Uber advantage still. Take the heals, try and take this corner, take the position that's being given to you. It could run a lot more efficiently. Actually, I didn't realize BB did probably the longest flank of all time ever. And hit 2 shots on Darker Time, taking him down to about 30 HP. Perhaps slightly ill-timed, but you've got to respect the hustle. Feila seemingly opting to pressure E instead of using their full Uber advantage, interestingly enough. So we just see Quasar Formation just sort of twiddling their thumbs on C. They're not really sure what quite to do. They manage to rotate through spawn, trying to suppress these players. Racking up the cap time on E, but it seems like Feila planned for that all along, using the opportunity to get their players into C with relative ease. You've got Walker sitting underneath Odin, though. He looks like he wants to cause an upset.
Yeah, he's being sneaky. I like that BB went to upward and back in order for that flank to happen. But Spoon was actually the one who maybe saved the point, I think, earlier on. He didn't go for the flank. He just walked straight into Joe and was just like shot as many rockets as possible, took Joe out. And with Joe down, it looked like Feila just didn't want to push. They did not want to get aggressive. BB with the ball to the face. Fusky is going to be feeling that one in the morning. And Axio does get Exi red, so that sentry will also go down. Ubers are going to be exchanged, but Quark gets dropped from the Uber. Axio is going to get the revolver onto him too. Layla is being pushed into the corner, and she will get flamed down by Clav. And there's a lot of frags going the way of Quasar. Only 3 alive for Feila. Odin on the cliff trying to get anybody, but he can't. He's going to get taken down by Yucca. And yeah, Joe going down a couple of times there just kind of slowed the onslaught from Feila and bought Quasar a bit more time to kind of get their defenses up. It does look like they come out on an advantage again, but it's definitely not as smooth sailing as it was in the first round.
Certainly not. They sort of a lack of, or maybe too much patience at times seems to be Feila's undoing so far. So they're just trying to slowly meander their way, trying to exploit any entrance. It looks like they're really not too keen to take any risk here. They're quite happy to take their time. They know they've got they're not working against any time, but they know what they can do against Quasar. But again, you're the one setting the benchmark. You've really got to try and put the most competitive time possible up there. So that you can do that without taking too many risks, you've got to be doing something. And it looks like Feila now just waiting to get the Uber charge up. They're 10% away. A little bit of pressure applied to E. I'm expecting a little bit of a switcheroo back to C once more.
Yeah, I think Quasar struggling a little bit with the kind of rotation over to E, and they're sending quite a lot of resources there, and they lose Fuzzkey and Quark. Those are two huge players you really want alive right now to defend E, and BB is actually, he's taunted on the point, manages to get a ton of cap time before finally going down, and it looks like C is going to go down, just like you thought, man.
Yeah, it looked like BB was adopting the approach, which is the hardest player to hit is one that can't see you. You know, he was just facing the other way, just ADing, and it worked for a fair old bit. They got about half the cap time, managed to open up enough ground for Feila to get the C cap over the line. It's going to be an Ikaluba situation now. Death Corridor being the poison of choice for Feila. They got some stickies above the door. Quark. Oh, everyone walks through. Oh no, a delayed debt. He could have had a 4K there quite comfortably, but just didn't quite have the intel. Delt going super deep there. Feila taking good ground on this D point now, but being absolutely torn up by Quark and Lolvont. And that definitely sullies their chances there. We know what the risks are associated with Death Corridor, and there were multiple things they could have slipped up on there.
It was an absolutely huge play by Spoon, just coming in behind. He's on a 6K right now. Just absolutely demolishing from behind, and you know what? Well played by Lolivant and Quark, just being that sort of dagger going forwards, and Spoon sneaking in behind, and that saved the point. And like you said, it can be sometimes when you're on the attack, you get a little bit, you just rest on your laurels and think, okay, well, we can just push next, and there we go. Quark gets later again. So Layla going down slightly more than she was in that first round. Quasar Formation definitely looking a lot more solid this time, and 5-11 for the first 3 points isn't something that Feila would be too happy with, I think, based on their performance in that first round. So right now, Quasar definitely in the ascendancy, and every minute they chalk off from this time now is just going to put them in better stead for the next round.
Exactly. They're looking slightly more comfortable. They're in the position they want to be, and they've got an Uber advantage in hand. There is no cap time on E, besides the tiny little tinkle that's being placed down as we speak. Layla goes down again, actually, to some stickies from Quark, so it's going to be a free Uber charge for Quasar, and they're just going to use this as an opportunity to drain the swamp, try and pick off any Feila players that are sort of stagnating in these various corridors and entrances. Joe just going to be the only one approaching from this back, but does get bombed. He's going to have to just chill out a little second, but it gets caught off guard by Clav, and again, that's time lost for Feila here. They're only 30% Uber charge, and without their main caller and demo man, it's not quite where they want to be, particularly with the time we're facing on the clock.
Yeah, I didn't major in physics, so I'm not sure if this is right, but Quark is like a physicsy thing, right? Like a science thing. I can say something like Quark's going supernova right now, because he's taking these Ubers and he's just demolishing, and in they come again, just cleaning house. Layla survives.
Too soon.
Too soon. Sorry, Lolivant gets 3. I say Layla survives. Lolivant's like, I'm going to kill Layla, and I'm going to kill another 2, just to prove that you called it too soon. He gets another one. He gets Joe as well. Finally goes down there. And Quark is going to clean up BB, but at the moment, Lolivant and Quarky, they're combining in these Ubers to absolutely demolish. And when Layla went down before, if we rewind slightly a little bit, they were just sitting in White Room, and they didn't really think that the rotation was going to come in. And at the moment, the rotations are looking really good. And in comes the Uber, a huge advantage again. Layla this time a lot more safe. She has an entire army of bodies in front. But they get Joe down. They get and Yucca gets Rambo and Buko. Quasar are looking good this round.
Yeah, Clav managed to surf one of Joe's stickies into Joe, and then just got flamed down. Yeah, these Quasar Ubers are looking pretty solid. Looks like Quark's really leading the helm, and then it's almost like Lolvont is like slipstreaming behind him, and as soon as the Uber fades and you got those Feila back staring at you, he's just charging in and just pulling up trees and making it look pretty easy, racking up the kill streaks after nearly every Uber charge. Feila managed to make their way now into heaven. They're going to start applying a bit of pressure to cap time, but they need players to be watching that Beck door. It's only Joe right now, and without the heals being close and without too much support on that point, it could be disassembled relatively quickly. Banny now coming out of Quasar Formation. Joe's going to have to back up to a slightly more passive pos now. The Uber now popped by Quasar Formation as well. Looks like they really want to flush out Heaven. Layla only on 50% herself, but it seems to be a near unsuccessful attempt. No ground gained and players dropping like flies for Quasar.
Yeah, that could have gone completely two ways there. It could have gone the way that it did, where, Feila just sit back, soak up the pressure, and deny that Uber completely. If Quasar had managed to come through, they had a battalion's banner being used. They used an Uber, and they had Layla sitting on 50%. They could have gone in really deep and just really committed and cleaned up, but they kind of hesitated, played in the middle ground, and Layla now has 100% in Heaven, well protected. There's a lot of damage coming down on this point. Joe finally goes down, and actually a lot of kills. There's a lot of weak players too. Xe is down to 7 HP. In comes the counter Uber, but it's only Odin, and he can't really chase. In fact, he just gets pushed away. He's struggling to stay on top here. Walker is in Heaven, but there's ×3 on the cap. He's going to get pushed. It is still going to be the battle of the rafters. In comes Dark, trying to block the camp of BB. He has that scattered and just pushes people away. ×7, 10-22, Meer. 10-22.
Oh.
That's not what we would have thought based on that first
sticky.
round.
Yeah, that's pretty sticky. When you got to set the benchmark, you've got to bring your A game. When you've got the defensive time, that's when you can relax. You know what you've got to deal with. You know the pace you need to play the game at. But an attacking time of 10-22 after that first round is not fantastic. It looked like many opportunities squandered there. Sort of Quasar giving Feila a taste of their own medicine with these really aggressive Ubers, just rolling with the advantages that Feila used against them in the first round. And it made it really difficult for them. They lost a lot of minutes just on Uber disadvantages, and they're going to have to hope to rectify that. Feila want to sort of return that favour on their defensive side now, and they need to drag it out pretty solidly if they want to sort of push Quasar beyond this time of 10-22.
At the end of the day, if you're Feila, you probably might think in the back of your head, you know what, if we just defend like we did last time, then it doesn't matter, we're going to win, because, we defended for nearly 17 minutes. But if you're Quasar Formation, you're thinking, look, you know what, compared to how long we held last time, that is a vast improvement. Let's improve on our attack. And, we've got 10 minutes to play with. I always say, if you're playing an attack defense or a payload and you reach those double figures in terms of minutes, you're not going to be very happy with the results. So Quasar definitely feeling a lot more comfortable on the map now, definitely feeling a lot more confident. I think Feila, not panicking, but definitely thinking, oh, okay, we need to remain focused for the rest of this, because this isn't over yet.
Yeah, I can imagine Joe's blood pressure has doubled after the frustration of that last round, so he should be coming like an absolute machine now. So we'll have to see whether he can whip Feila into shape to maintain the level of success they had in the first round. So Quasar doubling down on this E a little bit harder than last time. No resistance from Feila just yet. Now Joe, Delt and Odin are now rotating. Looks like it was a fake from Quasar. They've got players coming through drop down already. Uber being used very shortly, I can imagine, from Quasar. They lose Clav, so that's a lot of suppression gone down. We see the counter now coming out of Feila. It's looking significantly better. All of those players really congested around that B door that they fell victim to many a time before. Joe picking up one and Odin managing to pick up a couple himself. But what that's granted is, 40 seconds on the clock. Quasar Formation are going to have to build an Uber charge before they're able to bust in here again. And that's going to be enough time for Feila to sort of count their chickens, get settled, and be in the position they want to be to receive another Quasar Formation push.
Yeah, they have quite a few chickens right now, actually, because they're just sitting there. They've got a sentry up, they've got a banner going, they've got sniper, demo, everyone in position. I feel if they hadn't have dropped Clav there, if Clav goes in and leaves that Uber and they keep a pyro up to just cause a bit of chaos during that exchange, that can do an actual world of good. But when the Ubers are just completely cancelled like that, you just allow Feila to reset, and they were looking good for a moment there, Quasar. The Uber comes in very, very late. Leonard's only at 99, finally ticks over to that 100. So the exchange coming in, they get Odin, and you know what, if I'm main calling for Quasar right now, Meer, I'm saying go in. We're re-pushing. They're a heavy down. That's a lot of HP off the field. Let's just go in and start taking these fights. Let's just send everybody in.
Yeah, something that I think is really solidly neglected on this B point is sort of the differential in spawn waves. We talked about earlier, particularly on E, the defending team has some really, really chunky spawn waves. But for Quasar, as the attacking side, it's a really, really rapid turnaround. They can run for, sort of 6-man, 7-man sacks and just try and get a couple of Feila players picked off. And it looks like they want to do. They managed to get Layla for it. But Dark Time goes down as well. I completely missed that.
Yeah, it just kind of comes in and he goes down to Kazuki, but just the absolute crush onto Feila is all they're going to be caring about now. Is Buko and Odin. Buko gets Lolivon. It's these two against.
Wow.
Okay, Buko gets Fusky 2. It's Sentry versus Sentry, and the Sentry does in fact win this. Feila not letting go of B just yet. They're causing problems, and in comes Kazuki. He's going to get denied by Walker, but puts a ton of damage down. There's a lot of kills. If Feila lose a lot of players here, this could be really bad for them, but if they hold on for longer, then it's going to put a massive dent in the hopes of Quasar getting around on the board here. Buko is still alive, and he's still getting kills. He's for a 5-kill streak right now. Joe and Odin go down, and that might spell the end of it. Only 4 left alive for Feila. Axio gets burnt to a crisp, and with an Uber advantage heading on to C, this might be the biggest chance yet for Quasar to get around on the board.
Yeah, Feila definitely overstayed their welcome. You know, it took Quasar Formation still over double the time it took Feila to cap B. They should just be quite contented with a solid hold on each point. I think they sort of overstretched themselves a little bit there. They knew they were stuck in that corner. They knew Quasar had the positional advantage, and they knew that focus fire was coming in. Yet they still sort of gobbled it up and just got eaten alive there. So Quasar trying to apply a little bit of pressure to this E cap now, Soldier creating a little bit of a ruckus, which should open up a good old portion of C for Quasar Formation to get over the line. We talked about earlier, getting that C, getting that D, really helpful for sort of getting into E with comfort. So that mobility might be what Quasar need to close this out. They managed to get the force Feila onto Quasar with the counter Uber from them coming out now. Looks like they want to get a full wipe on this C point. They want to have a hold here. They want to make up for the mistakes of the last one, but only managing to get 1 or 2 here.
Yeah, honestly, my mind was in a different place there when you said Quasar getting the D.
For Peter's sake.
I've been corrupted, man. I can't help it. But Dark going down does mean Layla has a 30% advantage now. And, okay, well, a 30% advantage if she was still alive. But yeah. Quark is just going to come in, hit some pipes, and now there's 4 players, Pyro, Demo, Heavy, and Medic, in the respawn queue for 20 seconds. If you're Quasar, you're licking your lips right now because you're thinking 5 minutes, we're definitely getting C, and we have an Uber advantage, and we're probably going to get to D by the time people spawn. If they choose Death Corridor here, it could get messy, Meer. They're thinking about it. They're doing it. Choosing the spawn.
They need to be rapid here, or they need to hope that Feila select the wrong door. They managed to get through. Medic takes only 1 sticky and busting through. They've got a really huge positional advantage now. Quark has managed to trap off that door, completely isolating Joe in this corner, but Odin managing to follow up. Looks like he manages to peek the corner and get spooned down as well. That was a really stellar recovery from Odin. Manages to clear the sticky, pick off that demo man, and get spooned with some really impressive parkour into Death Corridor there. So, yeah, pretty solid recovery there. 4.5 minutes. It's certainly very doable, but at the pace we saw last time around on Quasar's offense, needs to have a little bit of a rethink from their first round, but it's certainly a possibility coming into this one now. They're 2 players down. Feila getting set up in heaven. A little bit of contest on D. Heals just being circulated, waiting for Quasar's next move. 50% away from Uber now.
Yeah, at the moment, Quasar are probably quite happy with their setup, but so are Feila. Like, there's 2 level 3 sentries very close to each other. Feila's is in heaven, and Quasar's is in that BC connector and is watching the E point. So if an exchange was to happen here and Quasar win, they are kind of happy to exchange, get some kills, and then reset to a really good position. It's going to be an Uber exchange on D. Cloud getting dropped from an Uber again. And in fact, it's the flank on the high ground. Spoon does get dealt, and it is going to be Quark just on the chase. He smells blood in the water, wants to get the sentry down. He does. It's going to cost him his life, most likely. He almost gets away. Odin, with the last couple of bullets, managing to take him down, but Rambasaur going down to Fusky. And there's a lot of players going down for Feila, a lot of important players. There won't be a sentry to deal with, and maybe some camp time on E is a possibility, as D is down, and Feila, with their backs against the walls, over 3 minutes to go here. Near Layla going down. Quasar just need to capture E.
Well, this is definitely looking very doable. Walker falls into the pit. Feila desperately trying to bust in through this back area. The health not too great from Quasar, but no positional advantage whatsoever now for Feila. They're desperately trying to get in. They lose Joe to the pit as well. They're falling victim to these really long 30-second spawn waves, and it's a super sticky situation to be in. Walker seemingly quite content with hugging the walls of the pit, which I've got to admire. But players sort of dropping off one by one, and seemingly enough for Feila to get their players to rotate around and get a last hold going once more. But that was a pretty dangerous situation by appearance.
Yeah, I mean, that cap time was getting pretty close. Now the Heaven Hold looks a lot less intimidating, as that's just a mini sentry up there now. Layla doesn't have this massive Ubercharge advantage she had before. Joe goes down to Fusky. Fusky goes down to Buko, but getting Joe off the field is going to be huge. Spoon jumping up there to Heaven, just trying to get some distraction going. A lot of damage going down. Del has to reflect all of this. He does reflect too. It's enough. And it might be enough to hold off here. Layla's trying to get into a more safe place. Wow. She's at 90%. And I think they may have held off the onslaught for just the time being. 1:45 left on the clock now. And Dark at 80%. Layla at 100. This could come down to one more exchange.
Yeah, are they going to be proactive with their Ubercharge, or are they going to give Quasar the position, allow them to get their Ubercharge? Feila again lost 5 players. They've been in this position so many times where they've had a significant player disad. But they managed to recover so far, but it might be a little bit too much this time. They've got a soldier in Heaven. Odin trying to suppress, but it's a really sticky situation, suffering the damage from Quark as well. Funky managing to get Joe down, and players dropping like flies on the side Feila. And Quasar looks like they just might do it.
It's times 7, times 8, times 10 on the point. A minute to go. I don't think Feila have anybody in position to block this. And it is going to be a round on the board. And honestly, after that first round, where it took them nearly 17 minutes to cap, I don't think any of us really thought Quasar, maybe the morale was going to be hit. But they've got the players. They've got that Prem experience. And they have got a round on the board. They've tied things up here in week 5. We'll have to find out what happens in round 3. This is going to be the third and final round of this match. It is Quasar Formation who've just tied things up against Feila eSports 1-1 on Steel, and deciding who attacks first, who defends first, all of that jazz. It is going to be Quasar in the blue attacking first, and Feila eSports in the red defending, and then they'll be trying to beat the time, which coincidentally is a repeat of round 1.
Oh my god. This is why they pay the big bucks.
Yeah, it only took me like 10 seconds to remember that. Something that happened about half an hour ago. Do you think that's going to play into Quasar's mind? Do you think, this is going to be round 1 all over again? Or do you think they still have the momentum in this situation?
No, I think after everything that's happened, you've had a little bit of time to reset. They're coming off the high of the last round. They just know that they need to set a pretty decent benchmark here. They know that they can just take solid points, take solid rounds, because they know they're capable of holding Feila for 10 minutes. So if they can come in under that and they can execute the same level of defense they were the last time around, they could sort of come in here all set. Certainly coming in as the underdogs here. Definitely what Quasar need to look at. They can't get overexcited. They can't get overzealous. They just need to just stick it, play sensible, and keep the points rolling. Speaking of, they managed to get the first point over the line. They've lost a couple, just waiting for them to spawn up, and then they're going to sort of mount an offensive onto this B point, looking to face down Odin and Kazuki in this upper area. Both Ubers in play, waiting for the first move.
Yeah, not many casualties happening at all, but none on the side of Feila. And on Steel, definitely, when you're defending, you do not want to lose people, because your spawn time is going to be longer. A lot of people sacrificing. They're just kind of running in and feeding that meat grinder. Rambasaur getting a couple kills with the level 3 sentry, and I think that may have been a suicide wave, but didn't really go too swimmingly for them. So they've captured A, and they're not going for the E push this time, Meer. They're not going for the E pressure. They're just electing to just go in, and it looks like it's going to be another sort of suicide wave. They're trying to get pressure onto Layla, and she's not really taking a lick of damage. So that dispenser armor proving invaluable for the time being.
Yeah, they sort of missed an opportunity with that first sack wave there. They managed to get the scout to bonk through. They got Kazuki and Odin to drop down. Yet the sacks came in about sort of 5-10 seconds later when that distraction was gone and the heavy had retaken upper. So a slight slip there. And it looked also like the second sack wave wasn't quite sort of as well oiled as you would hope there. So Quasar, they can keep running with this. They got 10-second spawns, but they need to be a bit quick on the draw. They can't afford to lose because every single failed sack, that's an extra 20-30 seconds. So we're seeing the bomb coming up again, slightly mistimed, Spoon going down. Quite managing to pick off Kazuki, gets Odin picked off, sort of locked off as well, but takes the teleporter back up and trades with that scout. So it's going to be 6 versus 6. They know Feila have the longer spawners here. Yuck is creating a little bit of a nuisance in the backline, so they know there is no pyro defense on the combo right now for Feila, but they're not able to get any pause. Walker gets picked off as well by Joe. Layla has to back up due to ill health, and Rambasaur picking up a 3k with that Wrangler.
Yeah, Rambasaur on at least 5k right now is doing a great job of just defending anyone who is trying to be pressured by those sacks. And honestly, I think you called it perfectly there. Yucca causing so much havoc in the back lines, getting some kills. While Delp was was chasing him, they could just come in, take the trade. There's no pyro involved. You can just dictate that kind of exchange going on. And Rambo getting another kill with the Wrangler, taking down Quark, and it's not looking good for Quasar right now, as they just cannot get any ground whatsoever onto B. But Fuzzy with the headshot onto Joe, and you look how passive everyone is being right now. People are just backing up because they know Joe isn't there, and that just huge damage potential is taken off the field. Rambo gets taken down. Fuzzy is deciding to take these into his own hands now. Takes down 2 huge people. That sentry is right for the plucky. Just a little bit more damage. It will go down. Del cannot reflect anymore. Layla goes down to Lolivon.
Yeah, things crumbling there. The players that really needed to be up for Feila were not up. They had no heavy, they had no engineer, they had no demo man. And those are the makings of a pretty solid B-hold. It looks like Feila have managed to tick down a fair bit of time here due to the sort of hesitant sacks from Quasar. I can imagine it's going to be relatively similar to what we've seen in the last couple rounds as well. Feila, again, not overstretching themselves. They're not trying to contest this B point late like they did last time. They have learned from that mistake, and they are just going to try get their spawns up, bunker down on C, and try and react to whatever Quasar Formation's next move might be.
It does look like they're going to be operating from the VC connector. It's going to be a big jump from Spoon. Lance gets so much damage. It actually takes down Kazuki, gets the trick, and he actually takes down Rambasaur too. The sentry has been taken down. Quark now says, okay, this is free. He trades with Buko. I'm not sure if that was the right choice, but getting 4 players off the field and getting cap time onto E, they still have this uber advantage. I think C is free now. I think it's just free real estate. You take that. Layla probably gets Aruba, but then you get yourselves in a really, really good position. You take a look at Xe Red. He's already got that sentry up in BC again, just like the previous round, which was so beneficial for them to just back out to. The exchange is going to be happening, or at least the Uber, is happening on B. Walker trying to lock out the spawns, but they don't get Layla. Layla is at 88-90%. A lot of damage coming down, but Joe and Odin, Kazuki also going down. There's a lot of players dying here, Meer.
Wow, that is not where you want to be. It looked sort of Feila reacted really quickly to that C push, managed to rotate round. Then Quark bombed up with a fake. Then Spoon bombed Odin afterwards, and they managed to sweep him up pretty sharpish and isolate those players from Feila that were stood on that point, and just sort of disassembled them. So really good there. Wow, he's disassembled Heaven twice in a row now, on an absolute ripping stream, managing to get the force out of Feila have Quasar Formation. Feila now have to try and make their way in. There are only 4 players. Quasar have a really good chunk of space here, and only 1 player up from Quasar. They need to look to lock this down. We know it takes about 40 seconds with 5 players, and they have got ×9 on this cap. No spawners up yet for Feila. Could this be the nail in the coffin? Could this be a 7-minute time for Quasar? Feila going to have to be really, really quick on this rotation.
Yeah, Joe, Delt, Kazuki, all these kind of classes that can do anything to this. They're just spawning now. God. It might not be even enough. The spawns come in. It's not. It's 6:03.
What?
Nearly sub 6.
Oh my god.
That's the fastest time we've seen tonight.
That is not what I was expecting. Again. Wow.
Yeah, you know what? I was singing Quark's praises in round 2. I was singing Joe's praises in round 1. You know, the demos were doing a great job. Quark did a good job here, but Spoon, twice in a row jumped in and traded and got like 2 frags, and both of the times he took down Rambo and basically clearing out heaven that efficiently and opening it up for the rest of your team to come in, because Quart came in and took down the sniper too. It was just kind of like he's going in, taking out 2, clearing out space, just like you do in sixes. You send your soldier forward to take that space, and Spoon did just such a great job in doing it. Didn't really get the sacks done on B, but you know, from C onwards, it was just perfect. And you know what? If you're Feila right now, you might be thinking, should we just play normally? Do we go for an E? Like, what do you do here? What do you think is going through their mind right now?
GG, good season. Go next would be my approximation. Quasar now on the defensive. Feila need to have a little bit of haste about them, stacking a lot of players onto this A point. They know that every second could potentially matter in this fixture. Quasar, they know, they just need to play sensible. They need to not full wipe like Feila did when they were sort of half holding E. And that's all they really need to expect out of this fixture. Feila looks like they want to either run fake into E or just go balls to the wall and just try and completely lock it down. But we know how tough that is with all the spawn doors in operation on the defending side. So we'll have to see how the lay of the land runs. They've got their heals coming through. 3 players ready to meet them at this spawn door, and 2 of them reflected into the pit. Joe and Delt fall into the infernal trap of the pit. Odin gets headshot by Funky as well. Rambasaur gets picked off trying to get into heaven, and it's all falling apart, CeeJaey.
It's absolutely crumbled. Clav there, all those hours in dodgeball. I don't know if he plays dodgeball, but you know, the reflect there just opened things up. You get Delt, you get Joe out of the equation. It's huge. And the thing is, that would have been one thing, but they also clear out the sentry nest as well. Rambo goes down, the teleport goes down, the sentry, everyone gets cleared up. They have nothing on E. And all of that time, which is, you know, 1 minute, 30 seconds maybe, that they've invested on getting a setup on E, completely wasted. They're back to square one. There is a battle happening on B right now, and it is going Feila's way, but you just know that they can just play passive now. Quark is trying to get some spam. If they're smart here, they kind of learn what they did to Feila in round 2, and they're just thinking, okay, let's make sure we survive and fight from here. 4:20 left on the clock. It was 4:20 yesterday. It's 4:20 now, Meer. What is going to happen in the next 4 minutes?
I don't know, but I'm excited to see what the result is in 4 minutes and 12 seconds. Feila managed to get that cap. Quasar, Quark particularly, managed to sort of identify that he was overstaying his welcome just a little bit, and the C point is what matters here. Feila now, they've got one of the spawn doors locked off with that B cap going over the line. They're looking to apply a little bit of pressure to E. They want these Quasar players to rotate. They want them to try and disrupt this. Quark might potentially be met by Joe's sticky trap, but it looks like he saw it coming. We do see Lolvon on Joe now, though. Looks like he might just be saved by Kazuki, so a good bit of space opened up. Some really healthy Feila players on this E point, and a decent chunk of cap time as well. Quasar seemingly sitting a little bit idle. Only Quark has something to say.
Yeah, BB is just sat on the point for so long. They've got times 3 on it right now. They've lost Clav, they've lost Walker. This is not looking good for Quasar. They managed to get Buko and Delt, but it's because of Fusky and not because of the Uber. They do kill Joe as well. Layla still has that Uber, but she's only got Odin for company. There's a lot of players dead on both sides. 3 for Feila, 4 for Quasar, but most importantly, Odin is actually looking like he wants to rev up for a jump there onto the point. It's so tantalizingly close to being capped, but that cap point will degrade as time goes on, and without those walkways up, it's very hard for anyone to get onto it. It's only BB and Del who can do it, and now Quasar look like they're happy to just hard hold E and make sure they get their spam, and Clav with the reflect is going to get down Del. Now it's going to be Kazuki to try and get onto the cap. He can't, and again, every time you spend resources trying to get E, you are wasting time doing something else, and it does look like finally Feila are saying, let's take C. They're giving it to us for free. Let's get those walkways up. We can do a little bit more. But it's taken them a lot of time to get to that position. 2:30 left on the clock. And you know what? I think this is going to go down to the wire.
It looks like it definitely has the potential to be. You know, Feila didn't really look like they knew quite what they wanted to do and managed to lose a near full Uber advantage in the process. It's proving to be an utterly titillating third round, CeeJaey.
I love the word titillating. That's exactly what this game is right now. The bridges are being extended. BB mistimes the jump. He's going to fall into the pit. That's a lot of potential time, but what the hell is happening on D? Joe takes down Dark. Axio gets the backstab onto Quark. There's only 3 players left alive for Quasar.
Oh, we've seen the tables turn. That spawn door is still open, but they're met by a flurry of Feila players. They're trying to bust out one at a time. There's offensive on the D, there's offensive on the E. They want to lock off this spawn door before the spawns come in. Walker, Red, Yucca, all potential victims of that decap. The doors now closing. Feila avert their eyes towards this E point. Players rapidly trying to get through this Beck area for Quasar. They got Quark going lower as well, but he's been well identified. Actually manages to pick up a 2k, and that could be the nail in the coffin for Quasar. An unbelievable return to form from Feila after what was looking like a pretty damning last sort of 2 defenses.
Let's look at logs. I'm more comfortable with logs, Meer.
Yep.
Logs. I'm more comfortable with logs, Meer.
Yep.
Go to the numbers.
Let's just
go to the numbers.
read the numbers so we know. But yeah, I think pretty stark at the top. Joe, Kazuki, Buko, 56, 55, 54 frags, 500 DPM from Joe, 400 from Kazuki. They got in those defensive positions and they were able to absolutely tear. We saw that slipping in the last round and the second half of the other one. But you know, the numbers speak for themselves. Quark, 420, going 40 to 50, and even KD, but we saw the amount of space going for his team. You know he was leading the helm of every single push. Another stat I'm going to say sticks out is the medic deaths. I think that's pretty reflective of what we saw. Darker Time across 3 rounds, managing to die 9 times more than Layla. A lot of those as well in really, really critical situations as well.
Yeah, often, like, you know, like we said at the end, they're dying at 99%. It's very unfortunate. But yeah, sometimes it's those things that make the difference, you know, that can completely change the way that the round is going. Up until that point, Quasar were holding on. If they get the Uber there and they trade, it's all different. But, you know, the top 3 there, 10 kills more than anyone else. It's funny, we got we got 3 people there from Quasar, Quarky, Lolavant and Spoon, all on 44 each, but you know, those 3 for Feila, 10 kills ahead of them with change, 61 headshots in just under an hour from Buko, and it's pretty mad damage, it's pretty mad kills. The medic deaths, when you're talking, like, you know, there was a moment in round 1, I feel, where a lot of that happened, and then later on it became clutch situations. I'm not sure if there was any like major drops in between the 2. I think it was 1 each, and whether they had a bearing or not. But it's a rough one. When you look at Steel, you do think, oh, the numbers aren't really going to tell much of a story, and of course they don't tell the whole story. But a lot of players contribute to this. But when you've got players getting that, you know, amount of kills, if you drop a sub, you can watch the VOD over on Twitch, which is where you are right now. Obviously, supporting the channel with your sub does in fact support the casters and production. All the money we get from Twitch does in fact go to paying the production and the casting staff that take their time to bring you these games. It is over for now, but like Meer said, we'll be back tomorrow with Super Dickman's Canonan versus Envision to decide some more playoff positions. And you know what? There's still the playoffs to go. Thanks for watching, everyone. See you soon.
Cheers, gang.
Hi, old beaver! Away!